Hi there. About 3 years ago, I was looking through loads of websites on the internet trying to get into something new musically, and I discovered this amazing instrument, which is the cigar box guitar. This one is made by a guy in England called Chicken Bone John, who's absolutely brilliant at making them. He's known as the godfather of the cigar box guitar in this country, and I've got a couple of his instruments. A lot of people, it's fair to say, play the blues on these things. I don't do that because I reckon there's loads of people that do that much better than I do. What I tend to do is what's known as the strum stick style of playing, and that's what this piece is that I've recorded today for you. It's obviously the old Beatles classic, Please Please Me. It has to be said the original is in the key of E. I've done it in the key of G because my cigar box guitar is in the key of G. In fact, it's got 2 G strings and a D string, and it's fretted, I don't know if you can see this, diatonically. That means to say it only has the notes of the major scale of G, apart from one particular fret. So it's limiting and it's liberating at the same time, because there's some things you simply can't do, so you don't worry about those. And there's a couple of things in the song Please Please Me that I just can't do because I can't get the chords, but it doesn't really matter. I've kind of worked around that. It's a fantastic instrument. It's kind of loosely based on a dulcimer, which has the same kind of diatonic fretting, but to me it's a whole lot more fun, and it sort of ties in nicely what I tend to do, which is strumming. I've always been a rhythm guitarist before I was ever a lead guitarist. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to play this in the way that I do it. Don't forget, not in the same key as the Beatles. I don't try and play along with the record. I might be able to give you a recording that I did of this in the key of G, which you can play along with. So this is an acoustic instrument, but it's also electric. It's got a piezo pickup, and I've got it plugged into my computer going through a program called Reason. I've got a bit of reverb on there. It's basically a clean sound. Nothing you couldn't do on a standard guitar amp with reverb. So make sure your guitar is in tune with mine. It should be tuned G, D, G. Okay? Now the introduction, this is rather good because you can kind of mimic what happens on the record. Very much so when the vocals come in as well. You've got this sort of droning G, and you've also got this rundown. Okay, and it's all incorporated in the strum. So you start off with an open G, that's the low pitch G, the one nearest the ceiling, and then third finger behind the third fret, second finger behind the second fret, first finger behind the first fret, so just running down. And so that note on the D string is sort of sandwiched in between those open Gs, isn't it? And then in the second bar, you've got the 3 open strings, first fret of the D string, open again, and then the second fret of the low G. And basically, if you look at the tablature, every little horizontal dash represents a semiquaver, so 4 of those represents a beat, and 16 of them represent a bar. So you've basically got 2 bars there of the intro, which is repeated. You can see that I'm strumming there. I mean, it's not just... You could do it like that, all in down strums, but it wouldn't sound very good, would it? It's very much that natural down and up strum. So you're sort of going down, up the whole time, and you're picking up the chords along the way. You're then into the verse, same sort of thing. On that second bar of the verse, not this kind of dotted feel, but dead straight. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got. Okay, and then you're into the second line of the verse, third line, and you've got what amounts to a C chord, which is first fret the D, third fret the G, an open G, and then you go to the second fret of the low G, and the other 2 strings go open. Now on the record, you've got some other chords that come in here, some B flats and things. You can't do that, so just live with it and stay on the G chord. Nice bit of rhythm there, sort of down, up, down, whatever you feel. Let's play those first 4 bars of the verse, shall we? And then you've got the same again. And there you can play it exactly the same as the record. That's really good, isn't it? You're on that G chord with the second finger behind the second fret of that low G string. Do the initial strum, and then down, up, down, really fast. Then you just use the open strings to get the lick that's on the Beatles version. Don't forget it's in a different key there. So 2 open low Gs, 2 open high Gs, and then 2 open D strings. The second one is to lead you into the come on bit. So you've got the C chord here. Now, part of the knack of this is sometimes only playing 2 strings. You've got the... So there at the beginning of that bar, you're only playing... We're on 3 lines from the bottom, by the way. First fret of the D string, third fret of the low G. C chord, okay. You play just those 2 strings. And then you put the top open G in. Play the open D to lead you into the next chord. The next chord is an A minor. Now you achieve this by barring the 2 strings nearest the floor, first fret, and your third finger goes behind the third fret of the low G string. Play an open D just before that. I'll pick that with an upstroke. Again, just play the 2 lowest strings first, then put that top note in. You've then got an E minor, and that E minor chord is first finger behind the first fret of the D string, second finger behind the second fret of the low G, and eventually third finger behind the second fret of the high G. And again, don't play the high pitch string until there, see? And then at the end of that, you've got an open G string, you've got the C chord, and then it's not a change of chord, it's just a different note within the chord. You put your little finger behind the third fret of the highest pitch string. So you've got finger 1 behind the first fret of the D, and the third finger behind the third fret of the low G, and the little finger behind the third fret of the high G. We're on the last line of the first page. It's another G chord, second finger behind the second fret of the high pitched G string, the other 2 are open. Play that for a whole bar. Then you've got C chord, open G, first fret of the D, third fret of the low G. Now you've got a choice here. Now in the last bar of that page, you've got the C chord, and you're going to what amounts to a D chord, second fret of the D string, fourth fret of the low pitched G string. Now you can play just those 2 strings, or you might want to get that little discord there with the open G. It's quite nice. And you've got the first time ending on page 2. This time we play 2 strings, the open G, that's the lowest one, the open D. Do your classic rundown. Because on the record, of course, Paul's saying, last night I said these words too, and John's saying, last night I said, so he ran down while Paul stayed on one note, and that's what you're doing on the guitar, see? And essentially, you're going from a C to a D here, but we're using a little suspension here. You've got third fret of the lowest G string, open D, open G. First fret of the D string, and then you've got that D chord again, second fret of the D, fourth fret of the low G, down to the second fret of the low G. All within the strum. Try and keep strumming as much as possible, don't make it stiff. Repeat the verse. This time you go to the second time ending. It's kind of a dead stop. What I do is I just play the chord once, and then I lift my fingers enough just to mute the strings. Do that sort of down, up, down, kind of chopping across the strings in that kind of percussive way. Right, middle eight is a bit of a problem. You can't get the notes exactly, but you can get a fair representation of it. So what I do here is I've got the C chord, and I just have my first finger on, off, on, off, on, off, on. So in other words, it's first fret open, first fret open, first fret open, so on. So you also have the third finger behind the third fret of the low G on all the while, and the other G is open. So, now various ways of doing the next bit. This is the best way I could come up with. Go up to the 7th fret of the low G, and just play 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 4. Okay, down, up, down, up, down, up, down with the plectrum. And if you play the open, the other two strings open, that's fine. Slight discord, it's quite nice. As I go, this is all about the limitations. But I think it's great. Can't do anything else, you don't worry about it. So you've got, and then you've got C chord, G chord. Now the G chord there, it's got the second finger behind the 2nd fret of the low G string. Then you use the G chords all open. And that next bar there, got 3 open strings again, play the open D, C chord to G chord. So when you put your second finger behind the 2nd fret of either of the G strings, you've got a proper chord. You've got the three notes that make up the major chord, the 1st, 3rd and the 5th. When you do the open strings, you've got this kind of 5 chord, which is neither major nor minor, because you haven't got a third in it. In the key of G, you'd need the B as your third. Okay, you need G, B, D, but you haven't got a B. But we're taking that to be a G major chord. And then you've got the only difference this time, at the end of it, instead of going, you go that triplet, that staggered fills, 7, 5, 4. Yet another version of the G major chord here. This is a finger behind the 4th fret of the high pitched G, and then down to the 2nd fret of the high pitched G. The other two strings are open, and down, down, up, down. So it's all G. C chord, just play the 2 strings nearest the ceiling, the 2 lowest pitch. Then you play the open top G, come up to the 2nd fret of the D, 4th fret of the G, it's kind of a D chord, down to the C chord, and then open a couple of strings there, the D and the G. And then you've got your rundown, and the last bar of this bit. You've got open high pitched G, open D, 3rd fret of the low G, 1st finger, 1st fret of the D string, come up to 2nd fret of the D, 4th fret of the G, down to the 2nd fret of the low G. So that's your middle 8. Back to the verse. You go to the coda this time. The coda is the ending. 2nd page, 3 lines from the end. Very straightforward. point on the record you've got a whole load of B flats and E flats. You can't do that because you haven't got them on this guitar. So basically what I do is just hold on to the 4th fret of the highest pitched G string, and let's just strum it. And I've just decided on the spur of the moment here to do a little roll on that last chord. So it's all G chords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a down, up, down on the end. So it's all done within the strumming. There is actually a brand name instrument called a strum stick. I actually had one for a while. I didn't get on with it particularly well. I prefer Chicken Bone John's guitars. So if you're interested in learning this style of playing, or these guitars, you definitely want to pay a visit to Chicken Bone John's website. The address is on the screen now. He's a really interesting guy, lovely bloke, and if you get in touch with him, he will make you one. He does have some in stock usually, but they very often get sold very quickly, so you might need to wait a little while. But it's a great little instrument. Yes, you can play blues and you can use a bottleneck on it. As I say, I don't do that, so I'm not particularly good at that kind of style of playing. I really enjoy the kind of rhythm guitar style, the strum stick style. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting, and I'll see you soon.